Alright, so I've been thinking about this topic for quite a while actually. It's a very common theme nowadays that a lot of people are looking to other countries to date or find a long-term partner. I can understand why. At America, a lot of what it stands for, the lack of religion, how we're just kind of like glorifying hedonistic values, has led to the disruption of the modern traditional family. But on top of that, I also feel like it's made relationships like really, really weird. Should I be a man? Try to approach a girl and say what's up, but what if she's like recording and blasts me on TikTok or blasts me on her Instagram, right? It's just kind of like a really weird dating age right now. Love in a lot of ways feel very transactional. But when people say that they want to find love here in Colombia, I don't think that's what they mean. So after I went to Panama, I noticed a huge difference in the people that I met there over the people that I met here. Because Colombia is so cheap, anybody with 50 bucks can come here and act like a baller, right? To live well in Panama, you actually have to have money. So because of that, I think the kind of people that Colombia attracts are the people that want to pretend they're the man, but they haven't earned it yet. A very common thing that I've seen around the world is that people try to use money to attract women, and I feel like it's probably some of the worst in Colombia. I can't really blame the women here either, right? Because of such the high single motherhood rate at 84%, a lot of the women don't really trust their men. Seeing a foreigner is kind of like a golden ticket or a way out. Hell, if I were a single mom working full-time trying to support my 2 kids, I would go for a gringo too. Colombia is not only the country with the highest rate of single motherhood, it's also the most unfaithful. Almost everybody that I know came from a dysfunctional family. The most common is probably single motherhood. A lot of people come with families who had other families on the side. For example, my wife was the child of the side family. Colombia's history is littered with a bunch of patrons or curses that have been passed down through generations. So understanding all the problems that Colombia has internally, why do you think it'll be any different for foreigners? I've always wondered why it was so hard to find true love in Medellín. Can you find beautiful women? Absolutely. But a lot of the people that I met there, very similar to LA, they were very pretty, but I couldn't have any real connection with them. And every time we would go on a date, we would just kind of be sitting there talking about the most basic stuff. And a lot of times when I see the relationships in Medellín, that's exactly what it is. For example, when you see people going out there on dates and they're just using Google Translate to like go on a date, how can you get to know the person that way? It doesn't make any sense to me. To me, it seems like in Medellín, a lot of the relationships are transactional. That's not just with love, it's also kind of with friendships, with business relationships. And asking around, a lot of Colombians blame Pablo Escobar for bringing this culture into the city, and it's just kind of stuck around for a long time. The Paisa has a history for being like campesinos, hard workers, dedicated to their family, forward thinking, but Medellín has lost a lot of that Paisa culture. One of the reasons why I love Manizales so much is that I feel like it still retains a lot of those conservative values, and it's so traditional compared to a lot of Colombian cities. You'll notice at most Colombian pueblos, they're all really, really conservative. I'm obviously not going to generalize and say that all of these women are looking at gringos as a paycheck, because I don't think that's true. But every story that I hear, all the consultations, all the DMs that I've received of a 60-year-old man dating a 24-year-old woman who has a kid and telling me that he found true love, or trying to ask me on my advice saying if it's real or not when he can barely speak Spanish, it's getting to the point now where I'm just like, I don't know what to say anymore. On one hand, my personal opinion is that I don't even think that's love, but at the end of the day, right, if she's happy, she's getting what she wants, and he's happy and he's getting what he wants, is there anything really wrong with that? I don't think so. My only thing is that, you know, even though I may not agree with these relationships, but just in general, right, it feels like the percentage of finding a good relationship is so low. I would say that for every one successful relationship that I know, there's probably like 20, 30, or 40 guys who have been drugged, played, cheated on, or just the most recent example of the gringo who came and killed his girlfriend from Bogota. So just from like a statistics standpoint, if there's like a less than 5% chance of finding a successful relationship, is it really worth it? If you go on the Medellín expats page, you'll realize that men are constantly complaining about the women here, calling them every single name in the book. But I feel like it's always the same story. A guy meets a girl online, they have to talk through Google Translate because most of the people that come here don't really speak Spanish. And who knows, you may be dating the exception, right? The single mom who posts extremely revealing photos with, you know, God Almighty in the caption, who's also like super kind, a traditional woman, and has real feelings for you. But why would that kind of woman be on a dating app? Why would that kind of woman be looking at foreigners? Think about it. Knowing what I know about Colombians, how most of them view foreigners, especially now after the murder of this woman, the expectations for most gringos and foreigners is that they're only coming here for sex tourism, and they try to stay away from foreigners as much as possible. When I see things like the Passport Bro movement talk about how women in other countries are easier, knowing that prostitution is also legal in these countries, it makes me really doubt the validity of their statements. It also shows me that most of these men don't really have a good idea of what it's like here. I did a collab with another YouTuber named Austin Holloman. No shade on him, right? But I know he just recently got in hot water for making the statement that Brazilian women are easier. And this seems to be a very common opinion amongst American men. A lot of red pill content nowadays talk about how you want to find a traditional woman with a low body count who's submissive, dedicates herself to her family, but then go somewhere like Medellín or Cartagena. It's like the epicenter for transgender transactional relationships and expect to find a good woman there. All the things that you're describing are traditional Christian or Muslim women, right? But then you're gonna try to look for these women on dating apps or in clubs or at a party. How does that make any sense? These kind of women would not be caught in one of those events. I've yet to meet a good traditional woman who will be submissive to her man who isn't religious. Please tell me if you guys have. I will admit though that coming here compared to the West, you will have a lot more options, because just by being a foreigner, you're gonna automatically be put to like the top tier, I guess, like money wise. So you may get a girl who's more physically attractive, but you have a way higher risk of getting drugged or robbed or kidnapped or any of that stuff. Is that really worth it? I don't know. But I think the biggest people to blame for ruining Colombia are these influencers that are trying to exploit the women here. The guy that I saw on Fresh and Fit named Casey Redbeard, who is like the ambassador for Colombian women, he apparently throws these penthouse parties where he charges like thousands of dollars. He has a website and a course of how to meet Colombian women that are educado and not prepagos, right? I had a friend who went to one of those parties and she told me that all of the girls there are prostitutes and that there were underage girls there. She talked to a girl over there who said that she was 15. If you're thinking about going to one of those parties, be careful, man. But I think things right now are finally reaching a breaking point, because I think this guy murdering this girl from Bogota created like this huge uproar that even the mayor of Medellín has said that the sexual tourism scene is a stain to Colombia's image. I wonder if Colombia is going to take action to fight this and what's going to happen to all these guys exploiting the women. Honestly, what I think is going to happen is that it's still going to continue, but it's going to die down quite a bit, because in my opinion, I think the risk is too high, and there's going to be other guys who are going to try to exploit the women in other countries like Eastern Europe or the Philippines or Thailand. So I think a lot of this crowd are going to eventually go there. It's just kind of weird to me. A lot of these men will meet a wife overseas and kind of use it as like a trophy wife kind of thing, right? But once you really figure out how the relationship works, you realize there's some sort of like monetary exchange involved, or like some sugar daddy relationship. When you see a 60-year-old with a 24-year-old, judgment aside, do you really think that there's real love there? You know, it's possible, but highly unlikely. So it's hard to say if it's a better place to find love in Colombia. In my opinion, it's just different, because Colombia has a huge littered history of dysfunctional, broken families. So I don't think that'll be any different to the women that are looking for foreigners. I actually think it would be a lot worse. Let me know what you guys think. This topic is really deep. You guys agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments down below. Peace out.